Hey, Think Community, welcome to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with founder Adam Callinan. Adam, it's great to connect with you, founder of Pentane, Pentane.com. You work with early stage businesses to find their profitability. Well, what a great concept, and what a difficult thing, what a difficult thing for many startups, because I think a lot of startups have a hard time. I'm a business coach. I usually am working with people once they've started, and I think because typically the work I do, they see more of an expense before they see an investment, right? But sure. I think but working with startups is interesting because I think they're some of them are looking at the bottom line and every penny they spend, and some aren't because they know there's a cost of doing business. And so I'm looking forward to diving in. And so when it comes to startups and profitability, where do a lot of companies, if you had to point to kind of like the number one area they get stuck, where do they get stuck? Whether it's in their mindset, their spending, et cetera. And then how do you begin to enlighten them to get unstuck?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a big question. And I can tell you both from prior experience and other businesses that we can surely talk about, as well as in Pentane, where companies, early stage, small businesses, let's say sub 20 million, generally not intentionally, they don't often go out and get themselves in trouble on purpose, is with fixed expenses. And it's not that they add OpEx just flippantly. I mean, surely some of them do. And, if you look back at the ZERP era where money was free, you could sort of fundraise indefinitely to offset that OpEx. The challenge is that they add fixed expenses, operating expenses into the business without having any understanding of how the revenue and the marketing, the return on ad spend, all of those like mission critical metrics, how they need to change in order to pay for the additional expenses. They just kind of go at them and they add them and assume that it'll be okay. And this sort of growth trajectory they're on will live forever. And as you add weight to the business, it changes. The company changes, the functionality changes, the efficiencies change, and the outcome is generally a pretty dire one.
Yeah. And so you come in and advise them, if they were to reverse engineer and rethink one thing, it would be.
Yeah, I mean, so Pentane is a software tool. It's a SaaS platform that takes my last decade of experience building a consumer brand from, the company was called Bottle Keeper. We built it to 8 million in sales in 3 years with no investors, no debt, no employees. A lot of that was because we knew financially how to pull levers inside the business, how fixed expenses impacted the business, so we never had them. How to use advertising dollars in a way that produced, like plannable outcomes, strategized outcomes, as opposed to just sort of throwing the spaghetti against the wall. And we sold that company in 2021. And after that, I got into companies that we had, consulted with, and I was just helping them out. They were companies I had invested in. And I quickly realized some were small, some were big, and all of them were profitable. They had no idea how they were making money. They just knew they had expenses and they had revenue, and revenue minus expenses at the end of the year equals net profit. Yeah.
Well, kudos to you. I love what you're talking about. When it comes to the fixed expenses, advertising dollars that you can quantify, and it's important to take a closer look at all of those. I think a lot of times people just kind of overlook things and don't really kind of zoom in. So it's great. Let me ask you a question. As a business owner, you sold your business. You were the co-founder, CEO, like you said, of Bottle Keeper. It was a consumer brand that grew, as you were sharing, from 0 to 8 million in sales in just 3 years, without employees. What was the one lesson, and then acquired in 2021, as an 8-figure company with just, 4 employees. What was one lesson you learned about not having that many employees?
Well, one, that you can do it. And just because everybody else is building big, heavy companies and raising gobloads of money doesn't mean it's the only way to do it. Doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. You have to figure out your own path and trajectory. So I would say what was critical at the time from a timing standpoint that would have been less so 10 years earlier is that we started the company in 2013. So in 2013, you could already connect most pieces of technology together. So it was reasonably easy. And I wasn't a developer. Like I didn't have any, my company before that was a medical device company. Like had nothing to do with technology. I mean, it had technology, but a completely different realm of technology. In 2013, 14, 15, as we scaled this company up, you could make all these softwares talk to each other. And that allowed us to create this really scalable platform that you could automate. You could automate the hell out of.
Yeah.
And so there's in that period of time, there's an upper limit. There was an upper limit to that. And it was about 8 million in sales. It got to the point where, because of my role in the company, I was running everything that a consumer saw. So I built the website, I did all the copy, took all the pictures, did all the paid media, ran all the campaigns, did all the customer service. And we just automated everything in that. But, dealing with 10 customer service tickets a day by yourself and automating it, no problem. When it's 1,000, because you're doing, half of that would come in the last 2 months of the year with Christmas. So I think that was an interesting part of that, is that you can really automate the hell out of everything up to a point. I think what's really exciting is what's going to happen over the next 10 years with automation and being able to build scalable really, really, really efficiently.
Yeah. It's amazing. I just want to go back to something you said, that you can do it. There's the old model of, having, it used to be for every 10 employees, you need to be making $1 million. But today, with efficiencies, with software, with virtual assistants, I mean, I'm a business coach. I run I don't want it to sound like this sounds, but I run a global business with 7 virtual people and Zoom, I mean,
it's wild. Yeah.
And that 7th person is ChatGPT, because they're a huge resource to me. So it's great. It's great. I love what you're talking about. I want to kind of go back. You have a really great background. You work, you cater to startups. You have done a startup. You've sold your business. You have this company now. Just go backwards a bit. Who was a mentor that had an impact in your life that kind of planted some of these entrepreneurial seeds in you?
My grandfather.
Yeah.
My grandfather at a very young age, he was always like this. I just only got to experience starting at a young age, was the wacky inventor.
Uh-huh.
He was like when I was 6.
Future-ish?
Kind of, yeah. He was Lloyd. He was in Christopher Lloyd, Back to the Future. I mean, quite literally, he was just wild. He's like the build a race car in your garage out of plywood. We invented, when rollerblades came out, we invented this clip-on that could hook onto your ski boot. So you could already have a rollerblade. You just had to buy this thing. Like, we just invented and created and took things apart and figured out why they worked and how they worked and tried to put them back together.
Yeah.
That was a huge part of my childhood with him.
That's cool. That's cool. My grandfather was a huge mentor of mine, and just so many good memories. It sounds like with your grandfather, and I kind of feel the same way. I'm making an assumption right now, but that energy that my grandfather kind of had still sticks with me today, and it fuels me a lot. All right, let's talk about your business. Let's talk about Pentane. Let's do a mini business course on it, just to kind of let it flow. What are 3 things that companies are going to get, or why they need your services?
Yeah, the first thing that you're going to see is a clear, guided direction on how to spend advertising dollars. So Pentane takes in a P&L, a most recent P&L. It applies a bunch of math, uses AI to go and do all sorts of interesting things with the line items inside the P&L. And then the first part of the system will tell you exactly how many ad dollars you need to be spending and at what return on ad spend in order to accomplish your goal. So if it's break even, it will show you in a chart that increases as you go down. As your revenue increases, it will show you how your return on ad spend or marketing efficiency decreases. They're inversely correlated 100% of the time, every business on the planet. So it will show you for your company in your financial situation, how those numbers work. So you can define ad budgets without emotion and gut feel, which is how 99% of early stage businesses have to do it, because it's just the information that they have.
There's a statement that I love, that if you don't bring data to the meeting, people just use their own opinion. And that's what you're talking about. It's bringing quantitative data that somebody can actually make a decision. One of the things I see, Adam, as a business coach, is people have a really, really hard time making a decision, and or have a hard time extracting what data they need to use to actually make a decision. It sounds like yours helps them get further down the road.
Yeah, it's all about removing the emotion and the personal opinion from the decision-making process.
Yeah.
There is a place for that. It's where you start, but the second you start getting data, you have to let the data answer the questions.
Yeah. Let me ask you this before we get to number 2. Layer in gut, intuition, and instincts with the data that you get. Sam Walton used to go to the diner with his data, have coffee and pie, go back to the boardroom and say, this is the data we're using, this is the data we're not. Is all data created equally, or like, how do you know that all the data is the data, or do you have to kind of use a little bit of gut with it as well?
Well, look, in a consumer, let's talk consumer for a second. In a early stage consumer business, a sub, again, $10, $20 million early stage consumer business, it is a massive puzzle. It's a puzzle with 1,000 pieces on it, but not all the pieces are created equal. Not all the pieces are of equal relevance or importance.
Yeah.
So clearly understanding which pieces are mission critical and which pieces are sort of nice leading indicators and which pieces are just complete vanity metrics, which is unfortunately what most people end up using, are the vanity metric KPIs, because it's what their marketing team has, because nobody has the mission critical data. And that literally is the point of the Pentane system.
Yeah. It's interesting. You talk about, I don't care about vanity metrics. And so I never really check about how many downloads or likes, because the only metric I care about is that my phone rings with new clients, and that my phone keeps on ringing with repeat clients. That's really what, those are the metrics I care about. I was just telling somebody this about an hour ago. It's that's what matters. Do you want to, part of me wants to give back to the world and help as many people as I can, who can't afford coaching, who I may never be able to interact with. And then part of me wants my phone to ring. It's the perfect balance of conscious capitalism for me. But I don't care, if I get 1 million likes, but no calls, it means nothing.
It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. All right. What's number 2?
Number 2, inside that system, you're going to see how you can add and subtract expenses from the business and see how that ad spend, revenue, ROAS matrix, how that changes. So if you need to hire somebody, add in $10,000, whatever the cost is for that person in a month, and you can see how much more revenue you need to drive and at what return on ad spend in order to actually pay for that person. You can do the opposite. You can reduce, if you're going to cut a person, lose an office, do these things, in early stage businesses that are really impactful. See how much easier it gets to get to break even or generate a 5 or 10% net margin.
Yeah.
So you get to use that kind of as your magic 8 ball.
Yeah. What I love about what you're talking about right now is a lot of businesses that I go into, they don't really have their arms wrapped around the cost of getting a client.
Yeah.
And then, to carry that, they don't have their arms wrapped around about what a client is worth and what the long-term value of a client is worth. It sounds like your program does kind of really helps them with that in a big, big way.
Yeah, it certainly starts to. I mean, I have a lot of aspirational things to build into this over time, which will absolutely get into LTV and CAC and LTV to CAC ratio, which is super important when you're looking at paying money to acquire customers.
Yeah.
And that's how you de-risk that expense is understanding the data and where it needs to be.
Yeah, I love it. All right, what's number 3?
Number 3 is you get a dashboard that shows you in real time what's happening in the business from a profitability standpoint. That's largely driven by contribution margin, which I know is a scary word for a lot of early stage operators, but that's all I tend to call them happy dollars. It is the answer to most questions. It is is it working or not working? Is our marketing agency doing their job or not doing their job? Should we launch into this new product line or not launch into this new product line? The answer to that is inside of contribution margin. So being able to see those metrics as they're happening, as opposed to when you get a P&L next month and you find out whether or not what you did was good these are all things that we did at BottleKeeper, which is how we got to where we got as efficiently as we did. We had really clear insight into what was happening in the business as it was happening.
It's interesting. I feel like as I'm talking to you, we kind of talk the same language, and it almost feels, I feel like I'm talking as if I'm like an investor in your company, because I resonate with so many things you're talking about, because when you talk about real time, so many companies, they don't think about things. I use the word, I don't know if you saw, but in the beginning it says real-time coaching. Yeah. that I do. And most people aren't thinking about things in real time. And many people are behind real time when it comes to certain things. The few are ahead of real time. And as we get better, I think people, think about 10,000 hours, you can start to kind of get in real time or ahead of real time, hopefully. Mm-hmm. But most people, a lot of companies with nuanced things are behind real time, and they're having a hard time trying to figure out how to catch up to real time. And so it sounds like your product helps them get speed along that process.
Absolutely. Creating clarity around the complex. And I appreciate that it's complicated. I mean, we learned how to do this over years of operating, and we were in other businesses before that. And we have I have a heavy math and science background. So I understand the numbers really well, but I also appreciate that that's maybe atypical a little bit, particularly in the early stage world. So this is all about simplifying that complex data for an early stage founder so they can answer questions that are hard to answer, or frankly, they may not even know the questions to ask. Correct.
You're really reverse engineering for them, not only to go from the beginning, the questions, the mindset, the flow, and the path. From what I'm hearing is the path to real time, so they can make effective, productive decisions that they can quantify and really forecast their business. I mean, that's what business is all about. And so, great.
You said something in there that I'm probably going to borrow, forewarning, that is reverse engineering profitability. I mean, that is quite literally what it is. It's let's start at profitability and then step it back to where we need to be today in order to achieve that outcome. But do it in a way that's quantifiable, intentional, and we're not making decisions on hope and luck.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. Okay, let's do a quick speed round. A book that's had a big impact on you.
How to Win Friends and Influence People.
So good.
Classic.
Best piece of wisdom. It should be mandatory reading in elementary, middle, high school, college.
I read it once a year.
Smart. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Question everything. Just because someone says it true doesn't make it true. Trust but verify.
That's a great one. Inspect what you expect. Finish this sentence. One thing everybody should do who has a startup inside of them but hasn't done anything with it yet is
go.
It's great.
Literally.
I love it. Adam, tell people who your ideal clients are and where they can connect with you.
Yeah, we're focused on consumer brands under 20 million in revenue. They tend to need the most help and have, once you get over 20, 30, 40, 50 million, you can hire in gangster CFOs and they can be pretty helpful. Doesn't fill the gap in between the CMO, which is where there's a big language disconnect. So consumer brands under 20 million, you can find us at pentane.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Adam Callinan. But yeah, that's the focus. Very intentionally helping those early stage companies answer questions that are hard to answer.
I love it. Adam, this was great. I appreciated your insight, your wisdom. Think community. I always like to extract one thing from my talk with every guest. Adam, I'm a business coach. I work with successful people who are stuck. I work with them to get unstuck, give them, ideas and things to grow their business. I love this podcast because I get to have guests who do the same thing and are in alignment with my mission to help over 1 billion people get unstuck and just grow any type of business or grow in their business that they're in. I always like to, you said a lot of great things. I want to extract one thing, which I think is mission critical for all businesses, Think Community, which is cash flow / profitability. We got to be looking, forecasting and then reverse engineering and really always looking at profitability. And Adam, it sounds like your platform is a great place for people to begin that journey and look at how you can help them. So if Adam's company can help you, please reach out to him at Pentane, Pentane.com. And if you want to talk about any business coaching, you can reach me at JonDwoskin.com. Adam, this was great. Stay on and we'll catch up. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, appreciate it, John.